Mom and dad are officially getting a divorce, or, well, the toxic relationship is coming to an end at a minimum. TSM and the LCS parting ways, I think, is ultimately going to be beneficial for everybody in the long run. TSM can go their way. I mean, TSM fans kind of get screwed, or at least some of them do. But let's go over who's getting the house, who's getting the dogs. How does every side of this come out after this decision is made, and the impact of everything today? If you think that this isn't a big ordeal, the New York Times is even writing about this, and obviously in combination with the CLG Madison Square Garden news. But yeah, it's a pretty big moment in esports, all things considered. First, for a little bit of context, for the last 3 years, basically, they haven't been trying all that hard in the LCS. That's been picked up by analysts and people behind the scenes as they dog on TSM. And then the toxic circle just goes back and forth of people getting pissed at each other, with fans just sitting there like the kids on the other side being like, well, we have a shit team and the LCS doesn't like us and they don't want to talk about us in the podcast, barring like literally just talking about some of the players that people liked. So it's like the TSM fans kind of got screwed in this whole ordeal. So don't look at just Twitter or Reddit for TSM fans. I know a lot of people want to point to the loud ones that come out, whether that's on Reddit or other social media platforms, as emblematic of the entire TSM fan base. It's not. There's hundreds of thousands of fans out there that are impacted by this that, quite frankly, are probably going to learn about this whenever TSM leaves the LCS. I mean, I hope this is a big enough deal for it to reach them as well. But there's a lot of people that aren't the stereotypical fans that people have come to hate on social media for whatever reason. There's a lot of just innocent people that are going to get caught up in this and have to figure out either A, a new team, do they keep watching, do they go to a different region and follow TSM? It's going to be interesting. Starting with the TSM org side, though, Reggie made that promise back in, 2016, that he wasn't going to stop until they won Worlds. And he referenced that in the video, which... Quick pause. In what world is talking monotone when looking off camera the best way to make an announcement like this without feeling like...
Day everyone, is also my birthday, and it's my birthday, I get introduced you.
Like, Reggie, come on, bro, show some emotion. I get you've been wanting this for years and you're finally getting out, but like, if anything, embrace that. Like, just show something. It was just so dead serious that it's like, I don't know if that was done to respect the TSM fans that they knew would probably be upset by this, but if TSM fans truly are bought into the culture of winning Worlds means everything to the brand and will follow you to whatever region you're going to, have a little bit more excitement and emotion in the video. Holy crap. You know you're already going to get shit for leaving the LCS and people are going to be raining on your parade. Might as well give some level of energy. But nevertheless, the reality for TSM, as almost every LCS org is going to have to come to terms with, is you cannot win Worlds or MSI in North America. You can't. And if you want to be able to compete on the international stage and contend for a title like that, you have to go over to the LCK or LPL, because we're just not going to get there. And I'll get into that with the LCS section specifically, like their responsibility and all this. But on the TSM side, it's now going to be an uphill battle as you develop systems from scratch in a brand new region. I'm assuming with decent finances. I mean, I don't know if they've recovered from the FTX stuff, and seems like they're holding on besides that. But as people rightfully pointed out, they kind of phoned it in for the last 3 years of the LCS. So now you actually have to start trying, which we haven't seen from the org in a while. I don't really have much else to add on the TSM side. I ultimately don't care all that much about what they do. What I care more about is the LCS itself. And from the LCS's responsibility and point of view on this, it is going to be better for them that TSM is out of the league. Again, you want to drop dead weight whenever you can. If you know somebody's going to be in this partnership to just bring you down the entire time and not care, you want to get rid of them. So it's a good thing that TSM has actually gone from the LCS in that regard specifically. But you are notably losing some brand value. I mean, TSM chants are still going on at MSI almost every day, so there's no denying that TSM has massive value in League of Legends that will apply to other regions that you are losing. And the question I have, like, even ignoring the fact that TSM obviously was phoning it in, is what identity are you trying to establish as a league? Because If it's competing internationally, we've already said that's not going to be the case. You just can't. So you have to focus on making the domestic part as entertaining as possible. I mean, even Jack came out with a statement on Reddit yesterday saying, oh, I wish we had more international tournaments so we could get more practice and be able to become competitive. It's like, dude, no amount of us getting 06 smashed at international competitions, whether it's twice a year or 3 times a year, is going to give us a better chance at winning Worlds. It's just not going to happen. And you're at this reckoning point where you need your identity and your fans to understand that. If the CB LOL is able to do it, then by all means, we should be able to as well. But you got an uphill battle because people have been living that dream for the LCS for a while that we can contend when we just can't. And how do you get people excited then when that's no longer an option? Is it from our players? But the problem is you're importing all of your players, or at least the majority at this point. And yes, even players that got their green cards and become LCS players long term, you're still not developing domestic talent. I'm not trying to go into the NACL discussion right now. That's for a whole separate video, but that does have an impact here. Whenever fans feel like they're not being represented by the players that are within their region, it's like you lose that tie. And the broadcast can do all they want to try and bring out the identity and personality and such. It's like you need that story of relatability, though, of that kid that grew up in America just trying to make it on a dream, or at least on talent, maybe the prodigal son, whatever story angle you want to take. It's just you need more domestic talent, and everything right now in the scene is just not pointing that way. Or if you're not going to go that route and you truly are just going to like embrace importing to the fullest, and like brands and teams in the league need to step up massively in terms of their content, in terms of getting the people to buy into their brand. Because let's be honest, if you're the Chicago Bears or the NFL, you don't care where somebody's from so long as they win you a championship, but that's because there's local value tied to the team, that you're not as reliant upon the stories of the players. The stories of the players is great, but it's about what they drive for that city. And there's nothing like that in esports currently. Oh, what we drive to the LCS brand. Well, or say any team in the LCS. It's like, that value's not felt by me sitting in Pennsylvania that has no engagement other than what I see on my phone. That's 90% of the extent or engagement of fans in the LCS, and that has to change. Speaking of LCS fans, how is Riot gonna show us that they care about us? At every chance, it honestly feels like Riot is pushing for EU and international people to watch the LCS. It's like, great, you're moving the start time back. That's not great for North America. And you don't have events on the East Coast more than once a year, which is where the majority of our population is. So it's like, I don't know how you connect with people. I really don't. And you lose a lot of identity in that regards. If you're going to call yourself the North American League, show that you care about North American fans and stop making every decision for what seems like the international crowd. That's what MSI and Worlds is for. LCS is for North America. If European fans want to watch, great. If LPL or LCK fans want to watch, great, sure, do it. They're more than welcome, but it should be about North American fans first. And we don't get that for whatever reason. TSM leaving now pretty much marks a turning point where you have to focus entirely on that, because you're losing one of your biggest names, even if they weren't competitive for the last 3 years. How you stabilize yourself and your identity is going to be a big question after this divorce. Finally, what about the children, the fans? TSM fans, I mean, it's been mixed emotions. It seems like there are some TSM fans that are going to follow the brand wherever they go. There are some fans that are going to just stop watching League of Legends because they feel like TSM betrayed, or TSM was a North American team and they've betrayed that. So they got nothing else to latch onto and they won't cheer for another team. So unfortunately, that is what it is. But there are also some North American fans that were TSM fans that now need to find a new home. And hopefully the 9 other brands that are there and whoever else comes in as well can do something to bring in those fans, because they need a home and they're looking for one. But you got to give them something unique, because let's be honest, nobody's been able to capture what TSM was able to do whenever they grew their fandom in the first place. As for North America fans in general, it has been outrage all day on Twitter. Azale notably popped off probably the hardest out of anybody. And reading all this, it's like going back to those like TSM fans that like are quiet and a little bit more casual, it's like, I feel bad for them. But for my NA fans and everybody else that's like hoping that TSM fails internationally, it's like, I know months ago I was pretty bitter whenever the initial announcement came out and said, you know, I'll cheer against TSM, screw them, etc. And I think I've come to terms as like you go through the stages of grief of like accepting that they were leaving, etc. And that it would probably hurt the LCS a little bit. I'm not hoping that they fail whenever they go overseas, because I do think they are an integral part of the entire ecosystem, despite how much I might not like certain people or certain choices that they do. And I don't think it's fair to just assume that because they didn't spend in the last 3 years that they won't succeed. It might take a few years for them to get in the proper development systems and do everything that they need to do to actually be competitive in the LCK and LPL. But I have a feeling that they will at some point. Quite frankly, they're going to have a more realistic chance of winning Worlds than any team from North America will have, which is a really crappy situation to be in. Which brings us to LCS fans in general, not just like overall LCS fans. It just seems like it's worry across the board. Nobody has any clue how this is all going to shake out, and that's on Riot and teams to figure it out and guide us through, because let's be honest, it's like a lost puppy situation. We have no clue what to do, where to go. Everybody's throwing out ideas. I've thrown out my own. There's no sense of unity on how we fix this problem, how we solve it. Like, no, there's nobody guiding us through this tumultuous time and saying, look, this is how we get to the other side of the tunnel and the light. Like, we have not got to that point. So I don't know what needs to happen. And for the LCS fans out there, I'm worried right there with you. I wish I could end this on a more positive note for that, but I can't. But at the end of the day, for TSM and the LCS, I think it's good that both are finally going their own separate way. We'll see what a world looks like once mom and dad are with their new relationships. Is it going to be awkward, or I don't know.